I think role-playing game starter sets are a bad idea. I know people love them, recommend them, think they're an ideal way into the hobby, but I have opinions. You have a friend who you think would be interested in role-playing, or maybe a nephew or niece who's younger than you, and you want to get them a present. You're thinking about buying someone a starter set. My advice is never buy someone a starter set. I think they teach bad habits, set false expectations, and exclude people from the hobby. Especially if you, a gamer, want to buy one for a friend or family member who isn't a gamer already. I don't want this video to just be me ranting for 45 minutes, so I am going to get on to what I recommend instead. And I've made sure there's timestamps so you can skip ahead if I start to froth at the mouth and repeat myself. For the company that makes them, a starter set is indeed an ideal way to increase their customer base. Sure, it's ostensibly to teach you how to roleplay, but it's worth taking a moment to understand the business model. For independent games, we are a tiny market. They sell one person at the table, one rulebook. It might be print on demand, or it might be entirely PDFs. For every 4 or 5 people playing their game, only one, the GM, has bought anything. For niche creators, that's viable. When I last played D&D, it was with my school friends, and it was always a surprise who'd bought their own copy of the Player's Handbook. The Dungeon Master typically bought that, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. This was the 1980s, before the IP was passed up the food chain to where it is now. So for every 5 people in that model, there were a few more sales, but nothing much different. That doesn't work for multinational corporations in the 21st century. They want money, ideally from everyone playing the game, and ideally on a semi-regular basis. But how can that be done? How can a game that is, let's pretend in our heads, be somehow paywalled? By changing the game. It's time to talk about starter sets, and for me to keep an eye on my blood pressure. Everything that I think is a mistake for teaching people how to game master appears to be sound business choices for a corporation that wants sales. Here's my top 4 problems. The first thing to notice is what's not included in a starter set, and how that makes you want to buy more things. The biggest and most obvious two are character creation rules and how to write your own adventures. So here's my first problem. Character creation introduces the game. Keeping character creation out of the starter set is an easily excusable choice. Oh, we didn't want to pad it out. Oh, it slows down getting to the roleplay. Oh, it's too complicated. But here's the thing. The attraction for many people to role-playing games is that they can escape their everyday lives, be whoever they want to be, explore otherworldly lands, go on fantastic adventures, meet wonderful and magical creatures, kill them for the experience points. A friend of mine works in a school, and he told me the D&D club there never goes on adventures. They just spend all their time, as far as he can tell, making up and designing characters. It's a whole game in itself. It teaches what the options are, who else exists in the world, and it's often peppered with world building. Second, play as anyone that the writer wrote. In the starter set, not only has someone decided on an optimal combination of races and classes you must play, but they've told you how to act in order to play them correctly. If it's aimed at beginners, due to complexity, wouldn't the character sheet be shorter, easier, less intimidating and likely to make your eyes glaze over? It isn't. It's longer, with paragraphs of stuff about hinted at places and faiths. It sets an expectation, a benchmark for backstories. They have to be written, and before the game starts. I disagree with both of those. You're not playing yourself, but with some numbers that makes you but an elf with a bow. You've got to act the part of Sir Something or Other from a place you don't know with a faith you've not had explained. And because we can't guarantee which of them will be used, none of them link to each other, introducing the unfortunate trope that your characters are thrown together purely by happenstance in this moment. That's a hard one to shake people from later. Number 3. Buying an incomplete game sets you up. This is the one I think is hardest to get away from in the current economy for big companies. If I want to run Toon, there's no reason for me to make further purchases. I've had the copy of the rules for nearly 40 years, and I've spent as much money as I ever need to on it. Expansions would just be window dressing, and that's what they always used to be. Expansions. But starter sets aren't core games that one can then expand. They're incomplete. The business reason is fairly obvious. Starter sets are bait. They're gift-shaped worms on hooks. People buy them for their grandkids or nieces because they heard D&D is back in. And it doesn't matter there's no bricks and mortar friendly little games shop. They're in bookstores. Easy. And then if the reader is hooked, the fear of missing out, FOMO, kicks in. It doesn't matter to the company how many starter sets end up languishing on shelves. They got paid. There's a ton of YouTube videos explaining you don't need to buy all the books. There's so many books. But while the viewership of those is big, the market is bigger. And the books are so shiny. And so we need a player's handbook so people can create their own characters, or an online service. And character advancement is deliberately so much more complicated than it used to be, with so many subclasses, that it makes sense to keep the characters online. And then maybe we get into the character creation minigame full time, like that D&D club, and want to play around with more ideas and plan out how the character would advance through the levels. Maybe characters that we'll never use at a table, or the online VTT that's in the subscription service. So we'll need to buy a subscription, and then there's going to be extra payments to lift the barriers on certain bits of content or classes or this limit or that. And if we stop paying them, then we can't access all the things we've made. And then I think ultimately my other problem with starter sets, aside from their place in the business ecosystem, might sound paradoxical. They're too polished. They don't read like a game you might write for your mates. So then you think, oh, I should just buy a pre-written campaign so it's consistent. This book says it takes the characters from level 1 to gajillion. Oh, I'll run that. Number 4. The adventures included imply what a proper adventure should be. They teach game masters that the expected adventure format includes complicated NPCs and lyrical location descriptions in books that always seem to include just one more race or class, and precious little encouragement for how to make up your own stories and not buy the next chapter. I'm not talking about the sample adventure in the back of every core book. These always feel to me like suggestions, but the adventure in a starter set is the only one the tools provided intend you to run. My solution is simple. It's the one that we did back when I was a kid. It's one that I hope teenagers and people new to the hobby would be doing today, but I think they're being told not to. It's this: run a mini session without caring how good it is. A micro session, really. One encounter. My first role-playing game experience was at the age of 10, when my cousin Rupert showed me his RuneQuest boxed set. It sounded intriguing, so he wrote up a character for me, gave him a short sword, and then my cousin flicked to a random page in the Monsters chapter and said, okay, let's say you're in a cave and you're being attacked by a griffin. Where was the cave? Didn't know. How had my character got there? Don't know. What values and personality, manner, demeanour and religious background did my character have? Didn't know. Didn't care. We ran the fight for a few rounds. He probably fudged most of his rolls. My character won. He then showed me the treasure table, and we rolled on it together until we got the result we liked. The end. That was it. I was hooked. We live in different cities, so I've never role-played again with him since. But as soon as I got home, I started saving up my own RuneQuest set. I ran my own games with this until I went to college without buying a single additional RuneQuest product. So this is my solution. If you have someone you think would love role-playing games, offer to show them how one works, one-to-one, and show them how much you love it. Emphasize that the other characters are played by people and not a multiple choice conversation flowchart or algorithm. Then, if they're interested and they want to give it a shot, jog them through character creation in 15 minutes or so, forget backstory or world building, and then have them attacked by a griffin. Or a space griffin, obviously, if it's Mothership. If you're thinking, but hang on, Marcus, the game I play is far too complicated and off-putting to do that with, then you guessed it, teach them a different game first. My son has a Dungeons and Dragons starter set, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. He was re-gifted it by someone who'd expressed an interest to her friends in Dungeons and Dragons, and their response had been to hand her this and leave it at that. She opened the box, looked at it all and thought, no, and it languished on her shelf until she found someone to re-gift it to. So, there you have it. I don't think the best intro to this hobby is sitting alone with an incomplete jigsaw. It's someone taking your hand and saying, come and see this. Spread the love directly. Show them how you can play together. Playing together is the ideal start. I don't suppose you're watching, Rupert, but thank you for doing that for me. This hobby has saved my life twice. Of course, these are just one person's opinions, mine, and our hobby is wide enough that different people do things different ways and come to different conclusions. But thank you for listening to mine, and I hope future Marcus has edited this down into something coherent. I'm all about foisting my opinions onto the YouTubes, but having been a game master for more than 40 years, I do have a lot of them, and if my mention of starting a game without world building or backstories makes you feel strangely liberated, then I have just the video for you next.